First contact and discovery. Dr. Jasmine Rivera never expected her routine sample analysis at NASA's Astrobiology Division to turn into humanity's first contact with alien life. The metallic sphere had crashed in the New Mexico desert 3 days ago, and while everyone expected it to be another piece of space debris, the biological readings were unlike anything they'd ever seen. "These cellular structures are impossible," she muttered, adjusting her microscope for the 100th time. The sample from the sphere's surface contained what appeared to be living organisms, but their molecular composition defied every known law of biology. The lab's silence was shattered by a sudden burst of static from every electronic device. Jasmine jumped as her computer screen flickered and transformed into a swirling vortex of light. A voice, somehow both mechanical and organic, filled the room. "Attention, Earth Research Facility. This is High Commander Zyxtal of the Galactic Health Organization. We have detected your analysis of our probe. Your species' reaction is unexpected." Jasmine glanced at her security phone. Dead. The emergency button. Also dead. She was alone in a secure lab, talking to an alien through her computer screen. "I'm Dr. Jasmine Rivera, NASA Astrobiology Division," she managed, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "What do you mean by unexpected?" A hologram materialized, showing a tall, crystalline being with flowing tendrils of light pulsing through its transparent form. "Your handling of the sample should have resulted in immediate infection. Yet you show no signs of the nebula plague." Jasmine looked at the sample under her microscope with new understanding. "The organisms, they're a virus. A pandemic that has devastated 17 galactic sectors," Zyxtal confirmed. "We sent probes to primitive worlds, hoping to find natural immunity. Most species perished within hours of exposure. But you." The commander's form shifted, crystal facets refracting light in complex patterns. "Your species hasn't just survived exposure, you've shown no reaction at all." Over the next few hours, Jasmine found herself in a crash course on galactic virology. The nebula plague targeted specific neurological pathways common to all advanced species, disrupting their quantum consciousness networks. But humans, it seemed, were different. "Your neural pathways are primitive," Zyxtal explained, managing to sound both diplomatic and disgusted. "Like finding a stone axe in a quantum computer factory. Yet this very primitiveness may be your species' greatest asset." More aliens joined the conversation. Dr. Nixera, a leading xenobiologist whose form resembled flowing mercury, was particularly interested in human brain chemistry. "Your species evolved without accessing the quantum consciousness field that connects most sentient beings. You developed consciousness through purely biological means. Is that bad?" Jasmine asked, wondering if she should be offended. "Bad? It's fascinating," Nixera exclaimed. "Your brains are incredibly inefficient, requiring massive amounts of energy and maintenance. But they're also completely immune to the quantum-based attacks of the nebula plague. You've survived by being too primitive to kill." As the implications sank in, Jasmine realized humanity's place in the galaxy was about to change dramatically. "You need our help, don't you? To find a cure." "We need more than that," Zyxtal admitted. "We need to understand how your species maintained consciousness without quantum integration. The plague is spreading, and conventional treatments are useless. Your primitive biology might be our only hope." Before Jasmine could respond, alarms blared through the alien transmission. A new hologram appeared, showing a star map with rapidly spreading red zones. 3 more sectors have gone dark," a new voice reported. "The plague is mutating, breaking through our strongest quarantines." Zyxtal turned to Jasmine, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. "Dr. Rivera, we need to establish immediate diplomatic contact with your world leaders. But more importantly, we need your scientific expertise. Will you help us?" Jasmine looked at the sample under her microscope, a virus that could devastate entire civilizations, yet couldn't touch humanity, and made her decision. I'll help, but on one condition: I want full access to your medical database. If we're going to solve this, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Granted, Zwaxtal agreed immediately. Prepare for emergency transport. And Dr. Rivera? Welcome to Galactic Medicine. Though I warn you, nothing in your training could have prepared you for this. Jasmine grabbed her tablet and lab coat, a smile playing at her lips. Trust me, Commander, humanity's good at figuring things out as we go along. It's kind of our specialty. As the transport beam engulfed her, Jasmine had one last thought: the universe was about to learn that sometimes, being primitive had its advantages. The scientific race. The Galactic Health Organization's central laboratory made NASA's facilities look like a high school science fair project. Jasmine stood before a holographic display that filled an entire wall, watching as it modeled human neural pathways in real time. Around her, aliens of various species worked at stations that seemed to defy physics itself. Your species' neural architecture is remarkably redundant, Dr. Nixera observed, their mercury-like form rippling with fascination. Multiple systems performing the same functions, backup processes for backup processes. Incredibly wasteful, yet it works, Jasmine finished, studying the complex interplay of neurons on the display. We evolved these systems over millions of years of survival on a pretty hostile planet. Commander Zwaxtal floated into the lab, their crystalline form dimmer than usual, a sign of exhaustion, Jasmine had learned. For more systems have reported outbreaks. The quarantine protocols are failing. The lab erupted in activity. Holographic displays shifted to show the plague spread, a red tide consuming star systems at an alarming rate. Jasmine watched as entire civilizations went dark. Show me the virus's interaction with human cells again, she requested, an idea forming. The display shifted, showing the Nebula Plague's failed attempts to interface with human biology. There's something we're missing, she muttered. The virus isn't just failing to infect us, it's like it can't even see our cells as viable targets. Dr. Raxul, a towering being composed of interlocking geometric shapes, joined their discussion. Perhaps that's precisely the point. Your species never developed the quantum receptor sites that make our biology so efficient, and so vulnerable. Jasmine snapped her fingers. That's it. We're not just immune because we're primitive, we're immune because we're messy. Our biology is so chaotic and redundant that the virus can't find a consistent attack vector. The aliens exchanged glances, or whatever passed for glances among their diverse physiologies. Explain, Zwaxtal commanded. Look at this, Jasmine said, manipulating the holographic display. Advanced species evolved to be efficient, streamlined. Every cell has specific, optimized functions. But human cells, we're like the biological equivalent of a jury-rigged solution. Multiple pathways, redundant systems, workarounds upon workarounds. Fascinating, Dr. Nixera whispered. Your inefficiency is your strength. But how does this help us develop a cure? Jasmine grinned. What if we could temporarily induce this inefficiency in other species? Make their biology just messy enough that the virus can't recognize it? The lab erupted in debate. Most argued it was impossible, you couldn't just temporarily devolve an advanced species. But Jasmine had seen enough of human history to know that sometimes the craziest solutions were the ones that worked. We don't need to actually devolve anyone, she explained. We just need to introduce enough biological noise to disrupt the virus's ability to target quantum receptor sites. Working around the clock, they began developing what Jasmine called controlled chaos therapy. The principle was simple: introduce modified human stem cells into infected patients, creating temporary patches of quantum-blind tissue that could shield critical systems from the virus. The first trials were disasters. Most alien physiologies rejected human cells immediately. Others accepted them but suffered severe reactions to what they called primitive biological processes. It's like trying to run quantum software on an abacus, Dr. Raxol complained after another failed trial. But Jasmine noticed something interesting in the failures. Look at this, she said, highlighting a particular data set. The patients who showed even minimal compatibility with human cells demonstrated increased resistance to the virus. The breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. During one of their rare breaks, Jasmine was explaining human dietary habits to her fascinated colleagues. Wait, she said mid-explanation about caffeine, what if we're thinking about this wrong? Instead of trying to make alien biology more human, what if we could isolate the specific aspects of human cellular chaos that interfere with the virus? The next week was a blur of experiments. They isolated components of human cellular structures, testing each element's effect on the virus. Most showed promise, but none provided the comprehensive protection they needed. The virus is adapting, Zyxtal reported grimly. Each new strain is more aggressive than the last. Jasmine stared at the latest failed test results, frustration building. Then she noticed something odd in the control group data. Show me the baseline readings for test subject group C, she requested. The holographic display shifted, revealing an anomaly that made her laugh out loud. Dr. Rivera? Nixera inquired, their mercurial form swirling with concern. We've been so focused on the big picture, we missed the obvious, Jasmine explained. Look at these subjects, they all received the same treatment, but the ones who showed improvement had one thing in common, they were all suffering from mild indigestion from sampling human food. The lab fell silent as the implications sank in. It wasn't just human cellular structure that confused the virus, it was the whole chaotic package of human biology, including their ability to process substances that most advanced species consider toxic. You're suggesting, Zyxtal said slowly, that the key to fighting this plague might lie not in human genetic engineering, but in human junk food, Jasmine finished, already calculating the possibilities. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones nobody would ever think to try. As her alien colleagues stared at her in a mixture of horror and hope, Jasmine couldn't help but smile. They were about to turn the galactic understanding of advanced biology on its head, and save countless lives in the process. All thanks to humanity's gloriously inefficient, chaotic, and surprisingly resilient nature. Trial and error. The GHO's main laboratory had been transformed into something that looked more like a chaotic fusion between a medical facility and an Earth convenience store. Holographic displays showing complex molecular structures hung beside tables covered with various human food products, while confused alien scientists attempted to catalog what Jasmine had termed the human digestive experience. I still can't believe this is working, Dr. Nixera said, their mercury-like form rippling as they examined the latest test results. The numbers were clear, subjects exposed to modified human dietary compounds showed a 47% increase in plague resistance. The virus literally doesn't know what to do with these molecular structures, Jasmine explained, holding up a sample vial containing a synthesized version of what she dubbed the convenience store cocktail. The iridescent liquid inside glowed with an unnaturally bright blue, a side effect of combining human biochemistry with alien synthesis technology. Commander Zyxtal drifted into the lab, their crystalline form catching and refracting the light from the samples. The Council is demanding updates. Please tell me we have something more scientific to report than we're feeding them human snack foods. Actually, Jasmine said, pulling up the latest data, we've made a breakthrough in understanding why this works. Dr. Raxol, show them the quantum interference patterns. The geometric alien manipulated the holographic display, revealing complex waves of energy. The human compounds create what we're calling biological static. They introduce so many random variables into our quantum-based systems that the virus can't establish a foothold. Like trying to hack a computer by throwing soup at it, Jasmine added, earning confused looks from her alien colleagues. Never mind. The point is, we're ready for larger-scale trials. The next phase of testing brought its own challenges. Different species reacted differently to the treatment. Some experienced mild euphoria, others temporary color changes. One particularly memorable case involved a dignified council member developing an intense craving for what they called those crispy earth tubes, potato chips. The side effects are concerning, Zyxtal noted, watching as another successfully treated patient raided the lab's growing snack collection. But they're alive, Jasmine countered. And the effects are temporary. Once the treatment runs its course, they return to normal, just with immunity to the plague. Dr. Raxol's geometric form shifted in what Jasmine had learned was their version of excitement. We've also discovered something unexpected. The temporary chaos introduced by the treatment appears to be teaching their immune systems new tricks. They're developing their own versions of human biological redundancy. The implications were staggering. Not only were they curing the plague, but they were also potentially revolutionizing galactic medicine. All because humans had evolved in the most inefficient way possible. But their success brought new problems. As news of the treatment spread, more advanced civilizations began expressing concern about using primitive biological processes as medicine. Some even suggested that the cure might be worse than the disease. They're worried about losing their quantum purity, Dr. Nixera explained during one late-night research session. For many species, their advanced biology is a source of pride. The idea of deliberately introducing chaos into their systems is disturbing. Jasmine was about to respond when alarms blared throughout the facility. The main display shifted to show a new wave of infections, spreading faster than ever. The virus is evolving again, Zyxtal announced grimly. It's developing resistance to our quarantine methods. At this rate, we have less than a week before it reaches the core systems. Jasmine studied the infection patterns, an idea forming. Then we need to evolve faster. Show me the original treatment formula again. She spent the next 12 hours in a research frenzy, combining everything they'd learned about human biological chaos with their understanding of alien quantum biology. The result was a new version of the treatment, one that didn't just introduce random biological noise, it taught alien immune systems how to generate their own. It's like a crash course in human-style evolution, she explained to her stunned colleagues. Instead of just disrupting the virus, we're teaching their bodies how to be unpredictable. The first test of the new treatment exceeded all expectations. Not only did it cure the infection, but it also provided lasting immunity without the need for maintenance doses. The side effects were milder too, though there was still an inexplicable tendency for treated patients to develop a taste for Earth cuisine. We're calling it the human factor, Dr. Raxol announced during their presentation to the council. A treatment that combines the best of both worlds, advanced quantum biology and human adaptability. As Jasmine watched the council members debate the implications of their discovery, she couldn't help but smile. Humanity had just proven that sometimes the best way forward wasn't through advancement, but through embracing the chaos that had kept them alive through countless challenges. The universe was about to learn that being primitive wasn't a weakness, it was just a different implementation and resistance. The rollout of the human factor treatment sparked what some called the greatest cultural revolution in galactic history. Production facilities across 17 sectors were converted to synthesize the cure, while emergency response teams trained in what Jasmine called human-style crisis management, essentially, expecting everything to go wrong and having backup plans for the backup plans. Another protest outside the central medical facility, Zyxtal reported, their crystalline form dimming with concern. A group of traditionalists had gathered, carrying signs with slogans like, "Keep biology pure," and "Say no to primitive regression." Jasmine watched the feeds from her new office in the GHO headquarters. They do realize the alternative is extinction, right? Change is difficult, Dr. Nixera observed, their mercurial form rippling thoughtfully. Especially for species that have defined themselves by their advancement beyond biological chaos. But the virus didn't wait for cultural acceptance. As it tore through the outer systems, even the most resistant societies began requesting the treatment. The results were undeniable: worlds that embraced the human factor survived. Those that didn't. The turning point came when the virus reached Crystallos Prime, home of some of the most genetically advanced beings in the galaxy. Their initial rejection of primitive medicine lasted exactly 3 days into the outbreak. When their planetary council emerged from emergency treatment, all sporting an unexpected craving for something they'd heard humans call pizza, the last major resistance to the cure crumbled. Part 5: Evolution and Acceptance. 1 year after first contact, Jasmine stood before the Galactic Council, preparing to deliver her report on what scholars were now calling the Great Biological Revolution. The chamber looked different from her first visit. Snack dispensers had been installed at regular intervals, and more than a few council members were sipping beverages that suspiciously resembled coffee. The long-term effects of the human factor treatment have exceeded our expectations, she began. Not only has the nebula plague been effectively eradicated, but we're seeing fascinating evolutionary adaptations across treated populations. The holographic displays showed the data. Species across the galaxy were developing their own versions of human biological redundancy. Not the inefficient chaos of Earth evolution, but an elegant fusion of quantum biology and adaptive resilience. In essence, Dr. Raxol added, their geometric form glowing with academic excitement, the galaxy is evolving. Not toward greater efficiency, but toward greater adaptability. The implications went far beyond medicine. The human factor had introduced something new into galactic society, the idea that advancement didn't always mean perfect efficiency. Sometimes it meant being able to survive when everything went wrong. We've established the Human Resilience Institute, Commander Zyxtal announced, now sporting a slight iridescent shimmer, a common side effect of regular exposure to human biochemistry. A joint research facility dedicated to studying what we can learn from Earth's chaotic evolution. The council chambers erupted in discussion, but it was different from the fearful debates of a year ago. Species that had once looked down on primitive biology were now fascinated by its potential. The universe, it seemed, had developed a taste for chaos. Later, in what had become a weekly tradition, Jasmine shared a meal with her alien colleagues in the Institute's cafeteria. The sight of advanced beings from across the galaxy enthusiastically sampling Earth cuisine still made her smile. "You know what the real irony is?" she said, watching Dr. Nixera cautiously approach something called a double cheeseburger. Humanity spent centuries looking up at the stars, hoping to learn from advanced alien civilizations. And in the end, you taught us something invaluable, Zyxtal finished. That true advancement isn't about eliminating chaos, it's about learning to thrive in it. Dr. Raxol, who had developed a concerning addiction to spicy foods, added, the latest data suggests that exposure to human influences has increased average species survival adaptability by 300%. Though we're still trying to understand why so many of us now require regular snack breaks. Jasmine laughed, looking out the station's viewport at the stars beyond. The galaxy was changing, becoming something new, not purely advanced, not purely primitive, but a wonderful combination of both. All because a virus that should have ended civilization had instead forced it to evolve. To chaos, she raised her coffee cup in a toast. And to whatever comes next. Her alien colleagues raised their various beverages in response, their forms shimmering with what she now recognized as joy. Beyond the windows, the stars seemed to twinkle a bit brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating the beautiful mess that life had become. The end.